is not a test.
Chemtrails seem to be an ongoing conflict between believers, scientists, and the government. I myself never really got into the matter. My opinion on it was neither a believer or non-believer, but I decided that I would take a look into it, and I did.
Alexa, what is a chemtrail?
Chemtrail. Trails left by aircraft are actually chemical or biological agents deliberately sprayed at high altitudes for a purpose undisclosed to the general public in clandestine programs directed by government officials.
For some understanding and perspective on how I researched this, I strictly gathered research and information produced by the government and scientists, which did include science-based peer review articles. I did not use any research compiled by chemtrail conspiracy theorists. The government's stance on chemtrails is generally nothing but a statement, but I found a little more proof. The absolute first thing I found or even looked at was an article written in International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health, a popular magazine like Scientific American used by scientists to publish findings of research. The articles are peer-reviewed by many, but they are also reviewed prior to being published in the magazine to make sure it's correct. They just don't let anyone in that magazine. The article I found was entitled Evidence of Coal Fly Ash, Toxic Chemical Engineering in the Troposphere by Herndon J. M. The article in summary was evidence that chemspraying was happening. The article had been redacted by the magazine a month after it was published in 2015. After reading the article, I wanted to know the reason why it was redacted. The magazine stated that the reason for the redaction was because of a single measure of unit that was incorrect, which they in turn said made the whole research invalid. That particular measurement had nothing to do with any other evidence being produced. And I thought to myself, if they are that precise about evidence and want to be that accurate, you'd like to think that they would have found that error in post-publishing during the countless reviews and wouldn't have even put it in the magazine in the first place. But what do I know? I just have a little old YouTube channel. I'm probably not as smart as all those doctors who did publish the article after countless reviews. So I looked into what the government had to say about chemtrails or contrails and cloud seeding altogether. I found a congressional hearing on climate change from 2010, which gave interesting information all on its own. The meeting, entitled Geoengineering, Assessing the Implications of Large-Scale Climate Intervention, was in 2009. It was about what was causing climate change and what to do about it. The key speaker was a scientist by the name of Dr. Ken Caldera. He stated that once CO2 reaches 450 parts per million, that we would lose any chance of reversing climate change. However, he also stated that any fix he or anyone else suggested wasn't likely to have an impact for years and have adverse effects across the globe. The current CO2 parts per million in 2019 is 413 at the time. So let's get to the good stuff. The 2010 congressional hearing gave some great information, especially by Dr. Caldera himself. This is the doctor's statement to Congress on current cloud seeding operations that had been happening since the early 1990s, which included aerosol spraying or spraying particles in the atmosphere. The doctor's statement, human-engineered weather modification shares these characteristics as well. The most commonly used strategy is cloud seeding, in which particles are sprayed into the air to stimulate condensation and cloud formation. This practice is thought to modify precipitation patterns in order to enhance crop growth, manage water resources, and promote human safety from natural hazards like floods and droughts. In 2003, the National Academy's National Research Council published its fourth report on weather modification. As of report publications, there were 23 countries engaging in weather modification on a large scale, and China is the nation's most aggressively pursuing it. The doctor goes on to say weather modification efforts are producing any results, also stating no consensus on the cause and effect relationship between cloud seeding and weather patterns has been determined, but it still continues to be practiced worldwide. Dr. Ken Caldera of the Carnegie Institute of Science states that for the solar radiation management options, that there are only two that would be able to address a significant part, if not all, warning issues, which is sulfate injections and cloud seeding. This is another statement by the doctor about injecting aerosols into the stratosphere to reflect sunlight, stating that, and provided rough cost estimates for injecting aerosols into the stratosphere to reflect sunlight. This is another statement by the doctor. Options for dispersing gases from planes include the addition of sulfur to the fuel, which would release the... So the doctor's main job was to convince Congress that something had to be done about climate change and what those options were. The only fix that Dr. Caldera was trying to convince the government to use was the spraying of a reflective aerosol into the troposphere to reflect sunlight back into space. He stated that after running countless computer simulations, that this was the only option they had with the best chances of succeeding. He also went on to say that there was a moral hazard. Another concern is that the public knowledge of widespread implementation of geoengineering represents a moral hazard. Basically saying that people shouldn't know what they are doing. So they made climate change and how to fix it a national security matter, and pretty much made the documents classified. Part 2 of my chemtrail segment will be out tomorrow, so check it out and like and comment.